I'd like to call the order of the meeting of the Utilities Committee for December 11th, 2018. If everyone please rise, we'll do the invocation pledge. Heavenly Father, as we come together tonight, we'd like to thank you for the blessings you've bestowed upon our great parish over this year. I'd also like to ask for your guidance and overwatch of us through the holiday season. Make sure we have a joyous and happy holiday celebrating your son's birth. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kind of got this backwards, but roll call. We got Councilman Turner and Councilman Kluwat that are absent tonight. Chair's additions. We don't have any additions, but we do have item 15 on the agenda, the cost of water production. We're going to pass on that item when we get to the end of the agenda. Public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak upon any item on the agenda can sign in with the secretary. When that item comes up, they'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Item number 5, approval of the minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Sadler, second by Councilman Joseph to approve the minutes. Any objection? Hearing none, motion passes. Report, Mr. William Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members. Very short director's report tonight. We have been we've been working on the PUA water cost. We have come to some consensus on how we might go this direction, what direction we might go. We are going to meet with the mayor of Donaldsonville this week and I guess some of the members of the city council and then after we have briefed them, I will come back and brief the utility committee and we can talk about it. But it's going to be, I think you're going to be pleased with the way it worked out. And, you know, if you use the minimum amount of water, then there's going to be no change on your water bill. So, but I'll have a full report on that, I'm hoping, next committee meeting.
Okay. Any question for Mr. Daniel? Okay. Moving on, item number 7, approval of the amendment number 1 of the August 3rd, 2017 agreement for professional services for GSA Consulting Engineers Incorporated to the 2018 PUA and ACUD1 drinking water infrastructure improvements projects. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is sort of a watershed moment for this water system, no pun intended. This is really going to have a huge reshaping of the entire system from the pipe in the ground to the plant, to the storage tanks, the booster pumps, the water meters. Every single part of the system is going to be touched by this contract that is before you tonight. I'm just going to go over. I'm going to go over a little bit of the work that's going to be done through this contract. So we're going to replace approximately 20.6 miles of the water system. That's probably about a third of the entire system. We're going to replace water lines that are undersized, that are galvanized iron and cast iron that are 6 inches or smaller. We're going to upsize the lines from 6 to 8 inches, which will, for fire protection purposes. The PUA lines that run parallel to ACUD number 1, we're going to abandon those and transfer all those to the larger ACUD number 1 lines. We're going to put additional fire hydrants throughout the system, and we're going to add additional isolation valves so that if we have a water problem somewhere, we'll be able to shut off just a small part of the system without a larger part of the system. So the benefits of all of that work will be increased fire protection, possibly resulting in a better fire rating for the residents, and of course the reduction in property insurance rates, avoidance of health risk due to inflow contamination or poor pipe materials. We're going to lower the chances of freezing in the water line with proper cover. And we're also, very importantly, going to reduce the operation and maintenance cost of the system. We're not going to have as many leaks to repair on a monthly basis, and we're going to increase the overall distribution of the system, and hopefully decrease the number of downtime that we have. The second part, we're going to replace all the water meters. That's the removal of 3,410 existing meters. Some of these are very old. We've talked about these in numerous occasions. The benefits, much more accurate water usage data, more accurate billing process, quicker leak response time, and again, the other big benefit is the reduced manpower, operation, and maintenance cost. We're going to make improvements to the ground storage tanks and the elevated storage. This will prevent accelerated aging of the tank and will correct coatings to ensure that there's no rust or anything like that in the water. And finally, we're going to make a number of improvements to the plant. We're going to replace all of the aging pumps and meters. We're going to put in a new grit system, flow splitting structure, and we're going to add ultraviolet light disinfection and replace a number of the other pumps. So this is it's an all-encompassing contract, and it's really going to be a great service to the citizens of Donaldsonville and the surrounding area. The contract that you have before you, it's basically the amendment is page 1, but we're required by USDA to use the EJCDC contract. So amendment number 1 references the contract that's required by the USDA. So that is what this item does, and I move for your approval.
Gentlemen, Mr. Sadler.
Yeah, very fine, Mr. Daniel. It's excellent. It is indeed a watershed moment for this particular utility. You mentioned elevated storage, sir. Is this envisioned with the USDA loan and so forth that we're going to have another tower? Or
No, sir. This is just coating the existing tower to increase its life and to make sure that we don't have any rust or anything that will get into the water system.
Good, excellent. Okay.
And the same with the ground storage. We have an existing ground storage tank, and we're just going to rehab that tank as well.
Okay. I think that's it.
I did leave out one very important aspect. The inside of the existing water plant is going to be renovated, and the major benefit of that is going to be we're going to build quarters in the event of an emergency, so that our plant operators will be able to stay for extended periods of time in case of a freeze or other natural disaster. So that's part of the program as well.
I did have a second question, Mr. Chairman. And GSA's role in this is going to be exactly what?
They are the prime. There are subcontractors as well.
Okay. It's an awful big responsibility.
Well, they're here tonight if you'd like to talk to them.
No, I think they're capable of handling it. I'm just, amusing, amusing myself. This is just wonderful. It's kind of even hard to get my arms around it.
Again, this is something that I think everybody's looked forward to since the parish purchased this, and it's close to becoming a reality.
And again, to remind the people, you mentioned USDA. This is the grant money. Might want to put that in the record again.
It is a $9 million, 40-year, 2.375% loan and an $8 million grant.
Mr. Joseph, any questions? I guess to back up a step, we do need a motion.
I was going to say, what do you need from us, Mr. Chairman?
We need a motion to move this to the full council.
I just one question.
Sure.
Mr. Williams, on this ACUD1, they are in this agreement right here. They are indebted for this debt too, correct?
Well, no, sir, it's the, this is indebted to the Parish of Ascension.
This is AP, yeah.
PUA.
So ACUD number 1 is a different political subdivision. This is really for the Parish of Ascension. So,
Motion, move forward.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions or discussions? I do have one for you, William. So all these improvements we're making to the infrastructure system with the block valves and different things you're talking about. So what are we doing as far as mapping and GPS and those particular things to where we've got precise locations on them going into the future?
we are going, we will GPS every single new line we put in. We have an existing GPS system, and we will, as we go along making the repairs and replacing all the valves, we'll GPS those as we put them in. So we'll have a complete system, GPS system, when this is done.
And you mentioned going from 6-inch to 8-inch. Are we doing size lines and that? Or we looked at any kind? Or are we going? That's going to be part of the project to look at any kind of friction loss in the system to warrant going to larger diameter piping than that.
Well, they have examined this when they did the preliminary engineering report, and they've looked at all the lines. But they're here if you want to.
That's fine. If Glenn didn't want to answer, I don't have an issue with that. If y'all want to talk about that at all, Glenn.
There are a number of lines that are being increased from 6 to 8-inch. The entire PUA system and ACUD1 system was modeled. We did a complete hydraulic model on the system to make sure that when we upgraded a line or replaced a line, that we're replacing it with a line that will provide not only potable water flow, but also fire flow. So currently the system has much in terms of deficiencies in terms of fire flow. Those issues in the areas that we're working will be addressed. Not all the lines will be 6 and 8-inch. Minimum size line that's allowed by 10 state standards, which is by the health department regulation, is a 3-inch line. There's several lines in the system that we're replacing. They're 1.5 2 inch, either steel, cast iron. So the considerations of the criteria that we looked at was, one, line sizing, making sure that we met the minimum line sizing that's allowed by the state sanitary code. Number 2, that we eliminated all the troublesome material lines that had troublesome material types, like steel, cast iron, asbestos cement, those kinds of things. So, but the system is modeled, and it's modeled to work in conjunction with the ACUD1 system. One thing that William, I don't recall him mentioning, but one of the things that we find is critical or important about this project is when you get outside of the system, PUA system, there are lines that actually parallel some of the ACUD1 lines that were put in many, many years ago by the former owner of that water system. This project will eliminate the duplication of those lines. Where there are parallel lines running, we will eliminate one of the lines and make sure that all the services on that line are tied into the ACUD1 or PUA line, eliminating the duplication of a paralleling distribution line. So,
I did mention that, Mr.
I'm sorry, I must have been reading something.
You need to pay attention to your contract.
So, anyway, we are considering fire protection, but not all of the improvements that we're making, encompass the entire system. We're only changing out about 30% of the lines. So,
When you talk and when you're looking at the fire service and those type of lines, what standard did you use? I know with PIL, which we use for our
Correct.
rating, they use a different way of calculating fire flow. They'll have 2 hydrants flowing at the same time to make sure they got
Correct.
a minimum pressure as well as what they're getting out of that hydrant. So, are we meeting those standards?
that's correct. We're following all the PIL criteria for the line. We are installing, in our discussions with the fire chief, I don't want to mention his name, but the fire chief was at Fire District 2.
McDonald, yeah.
I think it's 2.
James McDonald.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in our discussions with him, you know, there are several areas of the system that are deficient. They get, according to James, about out of the 35 points for fire protection, I think he said 15. Was it 15 out of 35 points, all right? And the issues are, the deficiencies are, 1, line sizing and flow. Second, fire hydrant placement. Can't remember what the other issue was, but there were 3 components of their deficiencies with the PIAL. One of the issues, Benny, is that you know, of course, you've got to be able to access 2 hydrants within certain distance from a structure,
Right.
of structure and fire. So adding additional hydrants, adding the isolation valves, which allows us to isolate the system, all of those things will factor into getting them additional points under that PIAL certification. So they're currently a fire rating of 4, and they get very little benefit from the system itself, the actual physical makeup of the water system. We think that these improvements will make a substantial difference in that. How far can we take that rating down? I don't know.
Right.
But when you go from a 4, taking it from 4 down, there are some significant benefits in that PIL rating, which greatly benefit homeowners' insurance policies.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's going to be some rate increase, but those homeowners will be getting some of that back in the form of reduced insurance rates.
Yeah, when you get outside of the city proper, or, you know, towards the outer lying areas of it, if there's the ability to loop in lines would help as far as maintaining pressure on systems, as well as,
Right.
you know, increasing the line size where you don't have dead-end lines, of course.
We're doing that with, the majority of these improvements are within I guess the old People's Water Service System, which is the PUA part that's owned by, outside of ACUD1.
Right.
Even though we're doing some things in ACUD1, those improvements are to really the system, PUA system, by eliminating the duplication of lines.
Right.
By making adjustments there's a pressure booster station that we use to feed the ACUD1 system that currently gets water from Assumption. Well, when we revise, make these improvements, the source of water now will be PUA.
Right.
So now we've got to go back in and make some adjustments in the configuration of that pressure booster station to take water from PUA rather than Assumption.
Right.
So all of the improvements that we're making here, we're going to loop some lines, but it's going to be internally within the PUA system.
Right.
All the ACUD1 system, with the exception of probably the MODES line, are all looped, as I recall. I know that MODES line is a long, several
straight
miles
shot.
long, dead-end line, and we do have issues with water quality from time to time out there
Right.
in that location.
Yep.
But all the work that we're doing, we're going to eliminate a lot of the bottlenecks. We're going to eliminate some dead-end lines, several dead-end lines, which will improve water quality, make the system much more efficient, provide better fire flow. So there'd be substantial benefit to the customer base.
Mr. Sack?
Yeah, Ben, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't able to read my own handwriting earlier. I did have a second question, and this last discussion brought it up. Under the topic of fire hydrants, Mr. Daniel, this one goes to you. How many fire hydrants is envisioned in this project? Did I understand, are we just replacing existing ones? Or
No,
actually adding?
we are filling in where they are lacking pursuant to code.
Okay. 'Cause
And I don't know how many that is right off the top of my head.
yeah, and the follow-up is the OP&M for that? Is that an AP responsibility?
I'm sorry, sir?
The operation and maintenance of the
Yes.
fire hydrant, that's going to be on AP,
Yes, sir.
okay? And I think you kind of covered it. You're going to coordinate all this with the our fire officials as far as placement and,
Yes, sir.
okay.
You look at two different factors when it comes to that. I mean, distance is one of them when it comes to placement. In residential, they need to be 1,000
Well, it's
feet
really
apart
important to
because
get
the
it
house is
You want that
within
GIS
500
rating,
feet.
yeah.
Within commercial, it's
It just gotta
600 feet because they got to be within 300. The one thing we need to look at, William, as far as ordinance-wise, though, in the future, any kind of construction or anything, fire flow needs to be calculated in to where if the construction that's there is not going to be provided for within the current system, that the developer would have to add hydrants on that particular property to get the fire flow required up. So if it may have to add 2, 3 hydrants depending on what the fire flow is for that area.
When we have development in Donaldsonville, we're actually making them add hydrants now. But Mr. Shaheen says that we're going to add 114 new fire hydrants. So that's going to be a tremendous
Yeah,
improvement.
well, absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to mention, Mr. Chairman, you talked about the GIS, the new work order system that we have. We just got trained in it here recently. It is like made for fixing leaks and for GIS purposes and everything. So it's going to be a great benefit as well, and it's going to seamlessly integrate into our GIS system. So it's going to be very nice.
Very good. Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, Mr. William, the only thing I got is, when we're going through this, we definitely have to look at making agreement with Assumption and St. James. If they lose water, we can give them water. So we need to work that intergovernmental agreement with vice versa, situation emergencies.
Because I was hearing today, Councilman Joseph, that every time Assumption ran low on water, they cut us off first. But
Well, I mean, if that's the agreement, I mean, I'm gonna take care of me first. I don't blame them, but
I'm-
we
I'm-
have never had that problem with them.
I'm kidding. No, I'll leave it to the engineers to work that out, but I'll make sure that it's included in the discussion.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Okay, we've got a motion to move this to the full council with recommendation. Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right, moving on to item number 8, approval of substantial completion for SCADA system upgrades for PUA.
So move.
Got a motion to approve, to accept the substantial completion? Second. Motion by Joseph, second by Sadler. Any discussion? Mr. Daniel, anything we need to know about the substantial completion?
No, sir, everything is working well. And we
Okay.
now have SCADA at these, some remote points, and we can see when things go wrong far away.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. Renewal of contract with Hartman Engineering Incorporated.
When I came last time, I told you I had 3 contracts to renew. We did one. This is one of the other 2. The other one's in the next item. I asked that you renew this contract. The total amount of these 3 contracts is $150,000. I didn't, the previous contract we did with GSA, that's going to come out of the USDA funding, so it's not affected by this money right here.
Okay.
We're gonna
So
do
moved.
this individually, or, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's individual
So
item.
this is for Hartman?
Hartman Engineering, 150,000. Yes, sir.
You,
It's,
I
the whole
moved.
now, the
Second.
contract is not $150,000 for Hartman, it's $150,000 for all 3.
3.
Yes, sir.
right.
Well, wait, hold on.
Well, the way it's
Yeah,
listed
yeah,
on
yeah.
here-
Hold on, yeah.
Item 9 is a.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Is a renewal of a contract with Hartman Engineering Incorporated, utilities, general engineering, and technical support for a not to exceed amount of 150,000.
And we.
And we just went through parliamentary procedure and said,
Yeah.
be sure you know what you're voting on.
Right, and William, we normally do this the way in the past, we would list all 3 of them, or all 4 of them, and we'll put a cap on it, and then you would decide which one
By task order, yeah.
by cast on.
And then the next item is the same thing for Buchert Horn.
Well, the idea, we may have not have done it in the most appropriate fashion, but I don't know that we've done it in a fashion that would keep us from moving on them tonight.
No, I don't think we have. We-
No.
Because
No.
but I will take that into consideration for the future, but the goal is to have 3 contracts with a $150,000 cap for all 3. So that's what I'm asking you to.
So
vote on tonight.
$450,000 is what you're gonna have for.
No, sir,
No,
150,000
150 is
total.
max for all three companies.
Collectively for all three.
He's wanting,
So you got to rephrase
So
your
you got-
motion.
Well, if you take, I mean, that's what I'm saying. What is the maximum?
The maximum contract for all three, the maximum amount of money, regardless of who gets it, is $150,000 absent some sort of budget amendment.
so we've got one other, you said three, we've got two here.
Did GSA last?
Last time.
Last time.
Okay, so that's not included in the 150.
It is included in the
Yeah.
150.
So that's what I'm
GSA,
saying. It's
Bartman
$450,000
and-
total.
Buchert Horn
No.
is $150,000
Well,
total.
he's saying he's gonna divide that 150,000 over between all three of them.
Yes.
Right, so might I suggest, Mr. Chairman, a simple fix here?
Go ahead, Mr.
The
Salley.
description reads renewal of the contract with Hartman Engineering Utilities, general engineering and technical support for amount not to exceed 150,000, and we now know that's a cap for the collective.
For
So,
all of them.
so at the end, we could insert not to exceed $150,000 for all, is it
Three utility contracts.
all utility contracts, you know.
Yeah.
Careful, because we don't want to tie the previous contract into that.
Well,
Or, Mr. Chairman, another
So-
alternative, you could bring the three together right now.
Well, that's what I'm fixing to look at, because I mean, we got, so the one we just approved, item number 7, has nothing to do with this, is what
No.
you're telling me.
No,
Right.
sir.
Yeah, we're okay there.
Okay, so we don't have GSA listed on here as part of this, so what I would recommend is that we combine item 9 and 10
Now we're talking.
and make this a motion to approve a contract for Hartman Engineering, Buchert Horn, and GSA for not to exceed $150,000.
Correct.
So we'll need a motion.
Okay, I make that motion to substitute.
Well, we have one on the table, so you need to withdraw your motion if you, point of order, Mr. Chairman.
That's
or-
correct.
All right, I withdraw my motion for the
original motion.
$150,000 for Hartman Engineer, okay?
And now you're going to make a motion.
Now, I'm gonna make the motion based on to do Hartman Engineer, GSA, and Burkhardt and Horn to not to exceed $150,000.
Second.
Okay. So I think from a parliamentary situation, we're doing this correctly.
Yes, we are.
From our last class we had. So, Madam Secretary, are you clear on what we're doing? Okay, awesome.
We were clear before.
Well,
Well,
the
the wording
agenda's
of the
not,
description.
We just wrote it wrong.
The wording of the description
There you go.
is where the problem
Yeah,
came in.
so the agenda
That's what
was-
precipitated my question.
right.
Okay, we're good.
Very good. So I think we got a good understanding of where we are. Everybody knows what we're voting on, and we're gonna recommend, this is the vote to be recommended to the full council.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that that item's cleared up for Thursday night's meeting, please. Okay, any further discussion? William, what task are we gonna be, having these companies do for us? What's a general synopsis of that?
We have them working on, mainly now going to be sewer projects because the water is pretty well taken care of by this one large contract. So they're mainly now going to be doing sewer projects. And, you know, unless something comes up in ACD number 2 water supply.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, that motion passes. So that takes care of 9 and 10. We're going to move on to item of number 11, Parish Utilities of Ascension Third Quarter Dashboard. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. So what I wanted, y'all have the water treatment plant quarterly report card. Again, we're making excellent water. I attribute that to the extreme dedication of the employees out in the, that work on the PUA and ACD number 1 system, as well as, you know, we have some consultants that help as well. But we've got a great report again. So it should be very comforting to the people of Donaldsonville and those that take the water from ACD number 1 about how well our water is for the year.
Questions, comments? Mr. Joseph?
Mr. Daniel, I mean, I appreciate this report and everything. Are we gonna start doing, and I mean, I hope in the near future when we start this project, a newsletter so those residents can see or can get some information to them.
Well, I'm hoping that we're gonna be working on the website, so we can have it both on the website as well. I think that would be more efficient than a newsletter, unless you think a newsletter is necessary.
I mean, I guess just getting the information out there first with a newsletter to, get them to really buy into, they can go to that website. I mean, just for a short period, at least while we going through this, transition that we're gonna be going with for the next 24 months.
I think it's a great idea to send out and let everybody know what's going to be happening over the next 2 to 3 years with a remake of the facility.
And the quality of the water that, just like you said.
So could this, excuse me,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, OJ, as a follow-up, could this be done, and Mr. Daniel, when we bill the customers by putting that newsletter in there, letting them know the water's in great?
We normally send a postcard, but we send out letters, and so it's very possible that we could send a
Just trying
newsletter
to
out.
avoid more postage and things like that?
Yeah, we're really not going to, because of the way we send out the postcards, we're really not going to be able to
Put anything
avoid
with that? I
the
got it.
postage.
Okay.
But I think we sent when we opened the business office, for example, we sent out a newsletter, a postcard actually, to everybody, telling them where the new business office was, that they could pay their bill and all that. And we're going to have a grand opening later in the year. So, yeah, it would be, we can do that. It gets to be a little pricey, but I definitely agree with Councilman Joseph that reaching out to your customers is always a good idea.
And that's kind of where I was going to ask you, OJ, is there, I know Channel 21, and maybe we could get with John and that group and put together some kind of a program on what's fixing to happen over there and where we are, an update, and put on Channel 21. But is there some kind of other media, radio station or something like that we might be able to go to and
They do.
and have a conversation with those folks to try to reach them? Of course, the newsletter would be more, probably
Yeah.
touch more people, but at least you could kind of spread the word a little bit cheaper going through the Channel 21 plus.
Well, and I'm also happy to go to homeowner meetings, city council meetings, school board meetings, and just talk about it wherever I can get on the agenda.
I think we can get with Ms. Hamilton with the mental health department, because she have a contract with KK, the local radio station, and I know last year she did some interview with some councilmen over there, and she might still have that, so we might can use that to also put the word out with them. But we normally, the reason I say the newsletter, because normally when the water have a little bad bacteria, we send a big old letter to them, scaring them to death. So let's try to reverse that with some good news, with a newsletter, and I'm only saying quarterly or, that's all. So,
Okay, well, I'll get with you over the next few weeks, probably in 2019, and
Correct.
we'll work on something.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, another, just a.
Sure, Ms. Silent.
Yeah, just Mr. Daniel, a question on this Thornton et al. Report, which for the public's benefit, that's our water treatment consultants, I guess. It looks like you've got some highlighted in yellow areas in the third quarter. Is there any significance to that, and can you discuss that in any way?
I don't believe that there's any significance to those. I could be 100% wrong.
I refer, I guess, to the
I was
total
actually hoping-
trihalomethane.
Right, I was
also the
actually hoping TMB.
Haloacetic acid as well as talc.
I was hoping TMB would be here tonight to go over this in more detail, but I will have them come to the next meeting and go over it in more detail. But I talked to them on the phone, and they told me that our water was excellent, and I looked through there, and most everything that I see and really understand about the water system, everything is good.
Okay, very fine, thank you.
All righty. Moving on to item number 12, water consumption report, Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So last time that we were here, we talked about including ACUD number 1 in the report. So this has both systems in there. So this is PUA and ACUD number 1. PUA being the first page, and I broke it down into, and I say I say I should say, Ms. Taylor broke it down into domestic, industrial, fire hydrant, sprinkler, commercial, so you can kind of get an idea of where the water goes for both systems. And then the consumption over on the right-hand side, how many accounts and the
Gotcha,
revenue generated. So that's kind of some new information for you to see for the first time. And hopefully with our new financial system, we'll be able to provide better financial information going forward in the future. And the reason we're skipping item number 15 tonight is for the new financial system, we just didn't get all the numbers.
Gotcha.
So we'll work on that.
Question for you, William. So I'm trying to figure out how to read this. So for an example, under fire hydrants, we're saying at rate 70, accounts 8, a revenue of $96 with no measurement on consumption. Are we saying we're making $96 off of those? We got accounts for that, and we're making money off of a fire hydrant?
Yeah, how does that work?
It's a flat rate on the fire hydrants.
Who are we charging? I mean, is this like I know like when they do road projects and stuff like that,
That's
they
what-
come out there and hook up
That's
a
what they
meter
did, Benny.
to a hydrant and use that water for
That's
the
what-
road project, but otherwise,
Anybody that hooks up to our fire hydrants, we want to have them meter it,
Right.
but we've been charging a flat rate. It's kind of
Okay.
not the best
That's
business
fine. I'm
practice.
Mr.
I was just curious. I didn't
On
want to
the-
make sure I was making sense of something. I didn't know
Mr.
how we were doing it. Same kind of thing with the sprinklers over there. I don't understand how we're getting.
Well, the sprinklers, quite honestly, have confounded me since I got here. I've been trying to get an answer to it, and it's an ever-changing dialogue. I'm hoping to
I mean,
figure it out.
it's not a sprinkler on a building for. I would assume because I mean that means you'd have
Yes,
a
sir,
fire
it's-
at the building.
As far as I know, it's in a subdivision,
Okay.
St. Jude subdivision.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
what it
it's-
sounded like. Maybe somebody.
Right, so that's something I'm going to track down. It just hasn't been top priority.
I wonder if that would be like a median type of entryway where they got a sprinkler system on it for the whole subdivision kind of thing, like common
It's
ground.
some contract that that People's Water entered
about to say.
into years ago, and just hadn't been a priority for me to figure it out.
No,
But,
It's small money, but it's
Yeah.
about
but I do
$1,000
need to
do it.
understand it eventually, but, I just hadn't
a lot
got
of
around
other
to it
things on
yet.
it. Yeah, I got you. I was just
And-
curious. It kind of.
If you look at the ACD number 1 consumption, you notice there's two
Okay.
entries. The top are the manual read meters, and the bottom are the automatically read meters.
Assumption, no.
So, for example, the
That's what-
domestic 10 and
Don't know.
662, 10 meters we read manually, and 662 are read over the air.
I'm not seeing that one.
Turn the page.
Oh,
There is.
Oh, the next,
There are two, yes, the second item.
Oh, I got you.
yeah.
Separate item. All right, there we go. Okay.
Okay, so we don't have, okay, yeah, I agree with you, because I don't understand the sprinkler and the fire. I know the flushing, I
Yeah.
can understand that, or renting out the meters for use of water. I mean, that'd be different with the fire hydrant, that's what,
Right.
like you said.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. William.
Mr. Daniel, thank you for that information, that helped out a whole lot, looking at some different numbers.
We're going to try to keep expanding on the information that we bring you as time allows.
That's good.
All right, moving on, item number 13, Parish Utilities Ascension Monthly Leak Repairs Report.
So, last time we were here, Councilman Joseph asked for the leak repairs. So here they are. These are the ones we did in October, the days we did them, and our estimated amount of water that we lost. So We do this, these are estimates, again, because we don't always know when the leak started, but we try to do the best we can based on the pipe size. You know, we were talking about upgrading all the pipes. You see we have some 3/4 inch pipes. But the way we do it is, we do the pipe
Awesome.
size. We use a chart that tells us for that pipe size, if you have a leak, how many gallons per minute it does. We estimate the number of minutes and then calculate the gallons used.
So,
Okay. Any questions, Mr.
so
Santa?
combining this, William, with what we had a minute ago when GSA was up there, and we're gonna go to 8 inches. Even, all these 3/4 inch pipes are gonna go to 8 inches?
No.
No, sir.
That-
I'm not sure I
Not all of
understand then with the. what
These
you-
are very small pipes that were run to accommodate some houses down the road, and we're always having trouble with them. These are not, however, the ones that.
And how are you, on these small, how are you finding this out? People are calling you and saying,
We see
water's
the,
running
we
in my
see the
street?
leak.
Right.
We see the leak. Either someone calls it in, they see the leak on the side of the road. I mean, they're
Routine
not buried
inspection.
that deep,
okay.
and so you see them on the side of the road. We
And-
have
And so
some,
when you say estimated minutes, that's estimated like how long that 3/4 inch pipe, as example, on St. Simon Street ran at a
exactly,
rate of whatever that is, 23
gallons
gallons,
a minute.
gallon per minute, is that what that stands for? Okay.
yes.
Which means they used the rightmost column's amount of gallons per minute.
65,000.
165, okay, I got it.
So, William, you say estimated minute, that's estimated minutes for you to repair it, or
No, this is
estimated
estimated
minute
minutes from the time that
they
that
report?
somebody reported it to that we were able to get it repaired.
Okay, that's,
And I think we even throw in, do we not throw in some extra time? We used to.
that when it says recorded in losing 23 gallons per minute, that's what you just like. cut the
Yeah.
pipe in half and
Uh-huh.
that was just session.
That's the
Right.
worst case scenario.
Right.
So, and 1440 minutes is 1 day. So I take the number of days and multiply it by 1440, and that's how I come up with those minutes. But, some of our leaks aren't just cut like that, they're not
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
as extreme, but it's a cushion.
Okay.
We don't know how long it's been leaking from the time they called.
right, that's okay, then that's
Well, I mean,
just
some of these could have been leaking for months
I-
before we found them.
That's what I'm about to say, that's what I'm trying to figure out what that mean. Because,
That's why this is such an inexact science here.
right, but it's just the point that there's a total amount of leaks, and they have to be worked on, they have to go through cement, they have to cut, it's just not go there and get plastic pipe and glue it and it's over with, it just don't
Yeah.
work that way.
Well, yeah, probably the 3/4 inch and 1 inch are the easier leaks to fix. But we do have some very difficult leaks to
Like
fix
today.
underneath roads. Last month, we had a leak underneath the road. It was a DOTD road. It was on a Friday afternoon. It was very difficult to fix. We had to get permission from DOTD. We just actually bored a new pipe under the road to fix it. So some of them are a lot harder to fix than others. These are relatively easy to fix compared to some of the other ones we have to fix.
You're not, I would assume you're isolating these things, you're not just necessarily letting them leak until you can get them repaired, though, correct?
We repair them as fast as as soon as someone reports the leaks, we try to get them repaired immediately. Not every leak gets repaired immediately. Sometimes we do patchwork so we can go back. We had one yesterday, we had a big leak yesterday. We just patched it, and then we came back and fixed it today. And even, it still leaked a little bit overnight, but it wasn't leaking like it was leaking.
And that was an 8-inch line, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
was a
mean,
big
you
line.
you put a temporary wrap on it and those type of things to get it to stop or slow down, but I mean, you're not
They
necessarily.
put some sleeves on it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're not necessarily going out there and, okay, that line's leaking, we can't get till tomorrow, we're just gonna let it blow till tomorrow.
No, sir.
Okay, just wanted to make sure of that.
I mean,
Well, in reality, we were talking about months. The worst looks like the first Vatican entry where it says 11/5/20, an estimated minutes. That's only 16. Let's say only it's 16 days, but so it's not none of these are a month or anything like that.
No.
I mean, I heard the word month a minute ago, so that's not
Well,
happening.
there's two
And
things.
of course, depending on the diameter, I guess, of this pipe, as well as the flow rate going through it, factored in with how many minutes before it was finally fixed, greatly can change the rightmost column
Yes,
in amount used.
yes.
and-
The
and
bigger the
lost.
pipe,
Because that may be the biggest estimated minutes, but it's not the biggest loss. The biggest loss looks like it's down there at
2
Highway
inch,
18 maybe.
2 inch.
But yeah, and that's a good point. That's a 2-inch pipe compared to the 3/4 inch Vatican. Of course,
Right.
I don't know how bad a leak. I mean, not like the whole
Right.
thing's
Well,
gushing.
That's the other thing that they're doing
Might
with
be
their
a minor
figures.
leak
They're
or
right,
saying
we take
maximum
the worst-case
worst-case
scenario on the
scenario.
leak, but it's usually not the worst-case
So
scenario.
for our future reports, the real payoff for us is not really pipe size and the flow rate through it and how long it's just how much in that rightmost column was lost.
Right, and I see that the report says amount used, gallons per minute, that's really gallons, so.
And so when we get the next report for November or December, this is October, we shouldn't see the street, for example, listed in the previous report because that's.
Well, lots of times, look, this old pipe, we have a
More-
leak.
But I mean, we shouldn't, there's like 15 to 16 in this report. We should see maybe one or two or none of those again.
You shouldn't see the exact same address, but some of the pipe,
I understand. You can
we
still have a problem.
replace all the way
Right, I
down
got
the
it.
road.
I got it.
And me and Mr. Joseph were just talking, I think the important part of this document is the column on the left, the number of leaks you got. Everything on the right is an estimate, and it's a worst-case scenario estimate. So it's, I don't know what you degree of accuracy you would put on that, William, but it's like we've been talking, I mean, just because if you take the first leak on there again, 3/4 inch line, it wasn't sheared off, so you wasn't getting 23 gallons a minute out of it. You don't know how long it was leaking. And so you're estimating worst case scenario, the amount of water coming out of the pipe, and you're throwing some estimates on the the length of time that it was actually leaking. So it's basically a big guess.
It's an estimate of an estimate of an estimate.
That's right. And so if you
We
look
call
at,
that, sir, a guesstimate.
that's right. So if you look at the number of leaks is what's more important and is what you can definitely get out of this thing is the number of leaks that you've dealt with within the month of October here, at least through the 1st through the 22nd. Not so much the estimate on the amount of loss in that.
Right. And
That's
my big-
So,
I mean, for the reports that we do, we have to try to come up with a loss amount, so we do that exercise. But it's a guesstimate, as Councilman Satterly said. But I think overall, it's not off by, by any kind of magnitude, but it's probably not.
No, it's useful data.
And this data, for me, I mean, just because everyone always calling me, I know I called Mr. Daniel about water leaks. It's also going to help us after we put the new system in and see if we have improved the system because the data
Sure.
we've been having for the last couple of months, we'll see if we reduce those
Yeah, and
issues.
I think
Absolutely.
we've had quite a few leaks in November and December. It's been a
Well, the
tougher.
cold months, we normally
It's been a
get some.
tougher month. December especially has been a tougher month, so
Right. Okay,
we've had more leaks.
okay.
all right. Thanks for that, though, Mr. Daniel. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.
All righty. Moving on to number 14, Parish Utility Ascension Audit Report for October 2018.
Okay, so I can't tell you how happy I am. We're going to get new meters that I can actually believe. Because again, our unaccounted for water jumped up and there's absolutely no reason for that whatsoever. But if you want to kind of look at a correlation, there's an interesting correlation here. Every time our actual sales go down, our unaccounted for water goes up. I thought, well, maybe it's in storage, but I really think that it's a function of meter reading. Meters in the plant, meters in people's houses, meters for how much we're, going out the door. So I'm looking forward to data. We found another meter that we didn't know existed. Well, I take that back. Some people knew it existed, some people didn't. But that information from those who knew it existed wasn't shared with those who didn't know. So, and that was the water meter coming in the plant, and we use water in the plant as well. So, again, I'm looking forward to the completion of this engineering, the replacement of these meters, but it's a strange phenomenon that every time our water consumption dips, our unaccounted for non-revenue water goes up. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think there's something going on there. I can't put my finger on it, but I think that when we get all these new meters there, you're going to see these numbers line out a lot better.
I mean, are you having that big of a, you're still producing the same amount of water out of the plant?
Well, take September and October. See, we brought in 37 million. But if you look at the billed metered, the water we sent to ACD number 1 was 5.9 million, and the water that we sold to PUA was 23 million. Well, we had a loss of almost 1 million gallons in ACD number 1 and almost 6 million gallons in PUA. And what happens? Our water consumption jumps up by, our non-revenue water jumps up by 6 million gallons. So if you look back, every time our water consumption goes down, our unaccounted for water goes up. So I know there's much better engineers here that can figure this out than me, but I think when we get all new meters, that the problem will take care of itself. But again, we were coming down with our non-revenue water, and it spiked up again in October.
Mr. Sadler?
Yeah, just as an old statistician, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, William, but I was always taught that correlations don't necessarily indicate cause and effect. That said, however, I think you may be on to something here in this particular case, but
well, it just, I think about it from an engineering standpoint, Councilman Satterley. We're doing nothing different at the plant. We're taking in the same amount of water. We have the same process, and yet.
And you said it's every time, too.
It's almost.
That got my attention.
It is almost every time. I think there's one minor exception where we didn't have that big of a change, but every time our water consumption is down, our non-revenue water is up.
And of course, I think you already alluded to it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this estimated meter accuracy, when all the new meters go in pipes and all, we no longer have to use 90%.
Well, I'm thinking we're going to be finding out we're selling a lot more water than we're actually getting paid for.
That's what I'm thinking too.
And everybody every meter company that has come to try to sell us meters has told the same story. The older the meters get, the less accurate they get, and when they get less accurate, they always read less water going in. They never read more water. So,
Right.
And ours have got to be very inaccurate, if that's a word.
Yeah, I think that's right, because if it's erring on that side, that could be explicable, and we don't need to be up here criticizing every week I'm going to call it the volatility index of how it's ebbing and flowing if there's a clear explanation for it. So I'll be looking forward to see if eventually.
But we're going to find out.
Yep.
That's the great
Well,
thing.
I think
We are
OJ
definitely
said it
gonna
well
find
just a
out.
moment ago. When we get all this new stuff in, and that's the important thing about historical data. You really can't tell where you're going unless you knew where you've been. And
Exactly.
so I'm encouraged with this, and I thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank
Any
you.
other comments? All righty. Moving on, we're going to skip item 15. We'll move to item 16.
Item 16, I make a motion that we adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you,
Thank you,
ladies and gentlemen.
Councilman.